Hey everybody, how you doing? And welcome to the Charles Matthews Show. But listen, you know what it is. It's the special. I'm doing a special called 100 My Brothers. I'm just wanting you to find out what's been going on in the world. I'm bringing you 100 strong black men, and we're just going to have a talk. We're just shooting from the hip. We're just talking to get to know them. I want you to know them. And today's special guest was so kind enough to switch up on me because, you know, he's a professional and he's ready to go. So let's welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen, Peter.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me here. I really do appreciate it.
Not a problem, buddy. How you doing?
I'm pretty good. I'm in the UK. For some reason, it's very, very rare that we have a really good summer. The last week has been scorching, which if you've ever been here, is not always the case. So right now the weather's good. Everything's good. We're coming at the back end of COVID, obviously.
Yeah.
And I'm in a good place. Let's put it that way.
That's good. That's good. So the reason I wanted to do this thing is just, you know, what's going on with Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. I just wanted to get to know a bunch of black men from around the world. Like I've been so lucky to get people from Ireland and from Dubai and from Africa just to say, listen, yeah, we're black, but we are real people. We do different things. So I wanted to do something a little different. So like the questions I'm going to hit you up with right now is, what's your go-to song like when you're ready to go on stage, man?
Oh man, that's a difficult one because I've got so many favorite ones. I'm a hip hop R&B type kind of guy, so I think you got to take me back to the old school more than anything else. And I guess the song that sticks out with me is "More Money, More Problems," which is the remix, Puff Daddy, Mace, Biggie. That's my go-to every time.
Because what's your profession?
I work in financial services, so yeah.
Okay, so it fits. It's a hand in hand.
Yeah.
So
you know what? The statement is actually very, very true. The more money you make, the more problems you have. It doesn't often appear like that when you're on the outside looking in, but trust me, it's very, very true.
But you would think that when you have all this money, that life is easy. So what problem should you have?
Well, what I find is that oftentimes you have the dilemma of money often means that you move into different circles, and then the people that are in your circle prior to you having money, that can often be a problem. But also having a lot of money doesn't mean that you're able to necessarily manage money correctly. And the mismanagement of money brings a load of issues, particularly when it comes to finances, mental health, anxiety, stress, depression, that kind of stuff. Right. So more money doesn't always mean a better life, in no way, shape or form. I know a lot of very, very wealthy people who are absolutely miserable because they just don't have the management skills required to handle this kind of money. I mean, we've all heard of stories of people winning the lottery and going broke 5 years later.
Broke.
You know, so it's true. You know, sometimes if you can't manage $100 or $200, you're not going to manage $200,000 if you can't manage money at a very small scale.
All right, so here it is. Ready? Boom! I just gave you $5 million. Tell me how you're spending it right now.
Okay, right now, I'll be investing in the market straight away. I'll buy some real estate, obviously. We call it property out here, but buying property will be really, really key thing for me. Have some money in cash. So I'll probably have maybe between 500,000 and $1 million in cash. I'll have a look at property portfolio and an investing portfolio, and also wrapping some money into things like trust and insurances as well that will help me protect for further generations in the future.
Okay, so that was too smart of an answer. All right. Let's go the other way. You know what I mean? 5 million stupid spending. Like, I mean, really dumb spending. Like, what would you do?
Oh, man.
Forget about, saving for the future. You're going buck wild. 5 million, go. Spend
this is going against my actual nature. So basically, out of the things that I would want to buy, I'm a car guy. I love a really, really nice car. So I've always had a look at, and it's funny if I went and looked at one of these yesterday, Bentley GT Continental was always been my favorite car. Okay. Beyond that, I would choose between a Lamborghini and a Ferrari. A Lamborghini will probably win out over a Ferrari because Ferraris are, everybody's got a Ferrari, but Lamborghinis are a bit more exotic, those kind of things. Talk about a massive, massive house, probably go for a really crazy house. And I'd probably spend a lot of money going traveling as well.
All right, but which person are you taking? Which famous star that you're calling up and say, listen, I have enough to fly you around. I have enough to take you. Which star are you taking?
I would say Beyonce, but I haven't got the kind of money that she has. No, I can't. That 5 million is nothing. Like anywhere near her.
Listen,
bank balance.
You call up Jay-Z and say, listen, don't worry about it. See, that's the funny thing is, like, the smart answer came out first, but our dream is to do some crazy stuff.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Like, why do you think as men we want to go that direction of just, I gotta have this car, I gotta have that? You know what I mean? What is it?
I think it's always something that is always from like a young boy. What are the things that we play with? Cars, right?
Yeah.
So even from a young age, you think about the most exotic cars, Ferraris out there, Lamborghinis out there. I think that's one of those things that we just pick up as we grow up, as we go through life, as one of those things. And also, I think as men as well, we have this impression that we're supposed to be the breadwinners. We're supposed to be the ones who provide, right? So that ability to have a load of money and then use that money in some way, shape or form to fulfill the things that we want to do, that we feel as men feed into the bravado and the ego of being a man. It's all sourced from that. And it's a natural disposition to have. It's almost the go-to thing to have. But I guess because I work in financial services, I'm a qualified financial advisor. I work with really wealthy people, and I see how they use their money and how they use money to build for the future. And therefore, the sensible answer comes up first beyond the, oh my God, if it was stupid and I, no issues at all, then yeah.
Yeah, because we want to spend it. We want to spend that bad boy like it's going out of style, right?
Uh-huh. And I've done that. And sometimes you look back and you're just like, okay, maybe I could have made wiser choices here. But, that comes with a little bit of experience, I guess. It has certainly in my case.
Well, like you said, growing up. So tell us your background. Let's get to know you straight up. Born and raised, where are you from?
I was born in London. 1979. I was fostered. So my parents are Nigerian. So they came to the UK back in the 70s, early 70s.
Okay.
And my parents were essentially here to work and study. So my dad studied printing technology because that was big back in the day. And my mum studied fashion design. So they had me in 1979. And they were already working, 2-3 jobs and studying at the same time. They couldn't really afford to keep me on. So when I was 3 months old, I was put into a foster care family, essentially. And I was with them for 8 years. I moved out from them to Nigeria at age 8 because my parents thought it would be a great idea for me to meet my 3 older brothers out in Nigeria. So I spent 10 years out in Nigeria. I came back to the UK when I was just about turning 18. And I found my way into financial services really by mistake. Having worked, in supermarket stores, stacking shelves and selling timeshares at one point. I've been homeless a couple of times because I don't have any family here in the UK. So I was pretty much sent back on my own with £50 in my pocket. I find myself in a position now where I look back at all of this and it's very, I wouldn't say encouraging because it's my life. So I didn't really know it was going to pan out in this way. But I certainly have some satisfaction in realizing where I come from and where I am right now. It's very, satisfying would be the right word, actually, to be honest.
All right, we got to dive into this, okay? Because now the story has changed, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, at 3 months, you're at 3 months. You don't even know your life is changing,
mm-hmm.
okay? Because you don't even know what's going on. And as you get older, did you find things were different? Did you find as a Black man, the situation you're in, it was difficult for you to adjust every time, or the way society is now, it just kept pushing more pressure on you?
Well, when I was a kid, so I did all of my secondary school, my primary school education in a white town. My foster parents were white. So, and back in the 70s, so this is, 80, 81, 82, 83 onwards when I was in school, there weren't that many Black people where I was being fostered. I mean, there was probably a handful. There was myself, Tim, Addy, and there was someone else down the road from me.
So hold on, time out. You see how bad it is when you remember all the names?
I know, right? Well, because Tim and Addie, I still speak to them even now. I know where they are now, so we remain friends through all of this.
Yeah.
But it's like when I was in school, I remember being the only black kid in that school. So as a result of that, clearly you get the whole racism and the bullying and being called a monkey and all this kind of stuff. And it's funny actually because my parents had this great idea that I go and meet my brothers at age 7 turning 8. And it was the first time where I was in school and everyone kind of like looked like me. I was like, what's going on here? It was a complete and utter shift.
Yeah. 180 shift. You're like, okay, something's wrong here. Why is all of us here together?
Yeah. So it was really, really weird. But if I look back at that, it's definitely given me a unique perspective on the world and a unique perspective in terms of how people are seen and perceived. I think as a youngster, as a kid in an all-white school, being called monkey every day, and there was this one kid, Gary Swan. He was an absolute nightmare. He made my life a misery. And my foster parents were always very, very good. They were like, he's colorblind. He sees you in that color, but you're not really. You're just like us.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up when you're 5, 6, years old, you believe that. And all of my friends were like, yeah, they didn't really know any different. Yeah, I look different, but I didn't really realize myself that I was different. Mm-hmm. So to have this kid doing monkey chants at me and all this kind of stuff, I'm like, what the hell's going on? I remember this went on for like a year and the school didn't do anything about it. And, in the end, we had to come to our own resolution. So, yeah.
So did he look like the monkey or at the end of the day, or what was it?
He did. Yeah. Because after a while of just like going home and being like, I don't know what's going on. And my foster dad was just like, we've tried it the other way. You need to try it this way now. and that was basically. And ironically, one thing I have learned is, this stuff is taught to kids, or if it's not taught, they either pick it up. And it's amazing how much children pick up from family, from their surroundings and stuff. And once we had our little conversation, he never, ever looked at me again and never did any of those things again. And it's just one of those situations where, kids are imprinted with stuff. And I think that's true today because these things aren't taught to little kids. Little kids don't grow up with a preconceived notion about another human being. It's something they pick up from parents and their surroundings.
Right. It's just not picked up and say, hey, this is what you're going to do today. Or, hey, I call this kid this because that's what it is. No, it's something inbred. So you have kids?
Not yet, no.
Okay, so then let's flip the script, okay? Your kid comes home at 7, doesn't understand. What do you tell your child?
I can only look back at what my foster parents did for me. And I think this was back in the early 80s. I think we've definitely made strides now in terms of the fact that there are more black people. I mean, in the UK, we are only still 5% of the population here in the UK. So we're minuscule. But with that said, you just need to have a look at all of the progress. So the music, the culture, the fashion, the way we speak, all those kind of things. That is firmly distilled into society, whether that be in America, in Canada, here in the UK, certainly here in the UK. I mean, you look at the football teams. Manchester United supporter. So I was watching a match literally on Monday night, and they had 2 white players on the pitch that evening. So even if you have a look at the way society see black people now, we are more prominent in society. So if my kid were to come back and some kids making monkey chants at me, my reaction to it now is I just laugh because it's ignorance. I think there is a certain acknowledgement that we've made progress to the point where now, someone says a monkey chant at me makes absolutely nothing. I'll probably tell my kid to ignore them and try and give it time for there to be a discussion between me and the parent to say, listen, this is unacceptable. I don't know what you're teaching your kid, but this is 2020.
Where you been?
Yeah, where have you been, and why what's happening?
So let me ask you this: is this why I ask these questions in this little survey box that I send out? Superhero, Black Panther.
Yeah, man. Oh, listen, when that film came out, I mean, I love Marvel anyway. I've watched every single one of the films, but Black Panther for me, I remember going to the cinema, and even, you know, my partner, it made you feel as though like you want Wakanda to be a real place. Like that's what Africa should be like. That's the kind of stuff that you, and it's the first time in history that I remember anyway, where you see an all black cast that is phenomenally successful worldwide, and production sick, writing sick, actors sick. There isn't any negative point to it that you could point to and be like, oh, it was a rubbish movie. No, it was a solid movie. The cast, the director just happened to be black. And it was just a good movie, period. But Black Panther for me, man, that was one of those movies that was just like, yeah, really, really inspiring. And it kind of gave you that feeling of there is representation out there. And it's, you know, you watch movies like, what's it called? Gods or Kings of Egypt, where Gerard Butler, you know, like the Egyptians, it's in Africa. Like representation is really, really important.
So hold on. It says here you're 40, right?
Yes.
So how has life from the Black Panther 5 years ago? So like, let's go to your 20s, because 21, that's the dope year. You know what I mean? 21, you realize this world is mine, kind of thing, right? Knowing you seen the video now of Black Panther, and when you were 21, did you see this in the future? Did you ever think that stuff like this was going to come about?
No, absolutely not. Not at 21. Absolutely. I mean, looking back to when I was in my 20s, like hip hop was still big right then, and that's really when you start of had, you know, hip hop be emerging properly and alongside the music, businesses also coming out alongside the music, and you could really get this feeling that it was a movement and the culture was proliferating through society across the world, right? But to think at that point that you would have a movie like Black Panther, absolutely not, because the norm back then was, I can't remember what films were out, you know, back 20 years ago, but I'm sure it was something like Con Air with Nicolas Cage being, you know, box office back then, right? Which are great films, don't get me wrong. Con Air. It's true though, right? But great film, but you didn't really ever see like proper black casts in movies. I mean, I think Will Smith was still doing movies. Independence Day was still good pretty much back then. You probably had Bad Boys back out back then. You have something as epic as Black Panther? Absolutely not. See, the closest we came to was Blade. And to be fair, that was a really good film. I love Blade. All three of them. Blade, you know what I mean? When you saw, you know, a black man just, you know, kicking ass, basically. Yeah. Like you thought, okay, that was it. But you know, going, you know, I'm jumping because I'm trying to think of you as a young kid going through what you went through. You know, I mean, separating from your parents, living with a foster parent. We're gonna take a quick break, but I definitely have to dive into growing up with white parents. Okay, sure. Because to me, it's like people are gonna ask me, you didn't dive and ask him that questions. Well, you didn't ask him the questions. So I gotta dive into that. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Cool.
This is our home, Jamaica, and tourism is the lifeblood of our country. Let's all feel good again. Whether with family or friends, we want you to enjoy your staycation.
We have to ensure that they are comfortable, they feel well protected.
New standards are in place to ensure your safety. We are here to serve you better, so you can have the best experience. Come out and rediscover Jamaica.
We are ready.
We are ready.
We are ready.
Rediscover Jamaica.
Heartbeat of the world.
Thank you for making Knutsword Express your preferred transportation and courier service provider. We at Knutsword Express recognize the need to continue to provide a safe and reliable service. A service that reassures and offers peace of mind to you, your family, and friends. Passengers and staff entering our facilities will be required to wear a mask, covering nose and mouth, and their hands will be sanitized and body temperature checked. And all tickets paid for via our website or mobile app will receive a 10% discount. Passengers will be allowed into our offices in a controlled manner, and social distancing protocols of 6 feet between each person will be observed. We will be operating our coaches at a reduced seating capacity based on industry guidelines. However, we will allow passengers traveling together to be seated together. Our coaches will be sanitized before each trip with environmentally friendly and hospital-grade cleaning agent. As an additional health precaution, we have installed air purifiers to significantly improve recirculated air quality. Thanks again for making Knutsword Express your choice. We look forward to serving you.
Yes, we're back to a special. It's called My Brothers, and I have a brother here all the way from the UK. And before we went to break, he told us a great story about his life growing up, being in foster, having, the struggles he grew up with, and, where he is now today, doing great things in his life, financial. When we come off air, he's going to show me how to save my money, right? Because I got
whatever you need.
I'm calling up Beyonce straight, so it's okay. But before we went to break, I said I have to dive in because you were fostered by 2 white parents.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the question I have is, first of all, kudos to them. Okay, because it takes a lot to take in someone else's child. Number one. Okay, kudos to them. Number 2, to take in a black child.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because all their other friends and all their other family members, if they're not into that society yet, they're all looking at them like, do you know that's not the right child you're bringing home, right? Do you know? You know what I mean? It had to be a little difficult for them to say, no, we like this one. This one's cute. This one, look at the smile on this one. We like this one. Yeah. So talk about, how do you think their life was? I know you weren't there. Did you see the stress on your parents? Did you see, some things that happened? Like when this kid's calling you monkey, how did your father and your mom feel?
I think in hindsight, looking back, they knew. So even as a kid, when you're being called a monkey, you try and figure out why. Like, why? Because you don't know any better. And you're trying to figure out why is someone reacting to me in that way. And I always remember that my foster dad was always very, very patient with me in terms of he would take the time to kind of talk and explain things. And he would always use that line, like I said, colorblind, and people see things in different ways. And, they either colorblind to one spectrum or to the other spectrum. This guy just sees you as this. And it was really, really hard. Like I said, this probably went on for maybe 2 years or so. And every single day I would get it. And every single day I would go home and speak to him, and he'll spend some time with me and say, look, don't worry, just ignore it. And when it did finally get to the point of, actually, no, you have to do something about this now. But it took him a while to get there. He was always trying to be as understanding as possible, and the kind of person that you would expect to kind of help you navigate that by explaining the world as clearly as he could to a 5 or a 6 year old, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. But I have no doubt that they found it really, really difficult. Like I said, there were only 2 black kids on our entire street at the time, and they were very protective of me as well. So they wouldn't let me do certain things because they're always worried about the way people might react to me. And the fact that I stood out in a crowd, even though at that point in time, it wasn't my understanding that it was different or anything like that compared to everybody else. But they were always very, very protective over me.
So did they teach you your culture? When I say your culture, did they give you the rice and peas, the oxtail, the goat,
No, not at all. But I tell you what, this is where I consider that I have had a little bit of a blessing. So my foster parents, they're English. So grew up English. They are traditional English people. So cups of tea every single day. I don't drink tea myself. Just not within me. Yeah. But I know the English way of life. Mm-hmm. And what my parents did is when I was, 7, turning 8, they said, "Oh, you've not met your older brothers yet. You need to come to Nigeria." Now, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an airline pilot. That was my whole thing. The whole thought and idea of planes, that fascinated me. So when they said, you're going to come over and meet your 3 older brothers, you're going to come for a 2-week holiday, I was excited to simply just get on a plane.
Okay.
So they sent someone for me because they were already back in Nigeria at this point. They've been in Nigeria for 2 years at this point. So my uncle was still in the country at the time. They sent him to come and collect me, took me to London, put me on a flight to Nigeria. And I'm happy because I'm going on a plane for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
When I landed in Nigeria, you can imagine, it's very, very humid, a completely different country. I'm 7, almost 8 years old. And there's just a bunch of people that I don't even know there to greet me, basically. And I was there for 10 years in the end. I finished my primary school education out there. I did all my secondary school education out there. And, you know, that in itself was a little bit of a shock. But one thing that has helped me do and helped me realize is that there are certainly two paradigms to the world. There's what we and I understand and know here in the UK, which is the Western civilization,
Right.
A lifestyle that is often dictated by the things that we want, not the things that we need.
Mm-hmm.
And I have experienced that. Well, listen, there's no such thing as you want this, because the wants don't even come on the list, because we haven't even got what we need right now.
Gotcha.
So it's given me a little bit of an appreciation for both sides of the coin.
All right, so here it is. What's the T? Because I interviewed somebody earlier and I said, is it 4 o'clock on the dot? Do you have to, is it the pinky that has to go up?
No. Well, let's put it this way, right?
Is it Earl Grey? Is it, what is it? Like, what is it?
There's so many brands. There's Earl Grey, there's Tipton, there's all sorts. But basically, most English households, you wake up in the morning, you have a cup of tea.
Okay.
You're going to have a cup of tea mid-morning, you'll have a cup of tea at lunch, you'll have a cup of tea mid-afternoon, you'll have a cup of tea in the evening, maybe 2 or 3. Like, that, I don't drink tea or coffee. I just don't.
So
but it's traditional.
So if I wake up and they're like, what would you like to have this morning? I say hot chocolate. I just destroyed the whole thing.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much. It's always tea. People have a cup of tea as their first drink. That is not uncommon here at all.
All right. So like even the athletes, I was watching cricket. They stop for tea.
Of course they do. Yeah. I mean, then again, sometimes when they stop for tea, it's not necessarily tea. It could be tea and a sandwich. So in the UK, we use the phrase tea as well as a like
break.
Dinner. Sometimes they call tea dinner as well. So it depends on what they mean. So when they're playing cricket, they're breaking for tea. It's typically they're going to have a little afternoon tea, which is either tea, Earl Grey, Tipton with some sandwiches and some sides.
What happened to the Gatorade? You know what I mean?
And hey, dude, we don't have that over here. You know,
No,
no, we don't. We don't have Gatorade over here.
all right, I gotta ship you some Gatorade. All right, so real quick, I'm gonna bring this up. That's your website right there.
It is, yeah.
All right, talk about money real quick. Why money? Why you love about money?
Well, let's talk about how I started. So one of the things that I'm really, really passionate about is the fact that oftentimes when we grow up through childhood and entering into adulthood, we don't receive any financial education or know-how around money. We don't get taught the purpose of money. We just realize it as this thing that we have to go out and earn, and it's something that we use to survive. We often don't get this education around, well, money should be used as a tool to build for the future. And that could be building a business, building a property portfolio, building investments to create wealth. We don't get that kind of education, through school. Certainly not here in the UK. And I know in the US, I don't know what it's like in Canada, there is a little bit of a gap there. So I've been in the industry for 15 years. I'm a qualified financial advisor. I was lucky enough in my career to work in Canary Wharf, which is like the Wall Street of the UK. And I've been in a position where I've made a lot of money. And at the same time, because I didn't have any financial education, spent money on a load of nonsense, things that don't really matter. So I make it my mission now to kind of provide that little bit of education to help people understand. Number one, we have to have basics in, foundations in place, managing money, but also the mentality that we have around money dictates whether we're going to end up wealthy or just be poor, because we have to know where to point money and how to use it appropriately and effectively.
All right, so here it is. We have this thing. It's called Pick 3. We're going to have some fun right now. I have questions here. You need to pick 3 out of the 10, and those are the questions I'm going to ask you before we let you go.
Okay, cool.
So go ahead. Pick numbers between 1 and 10.
3.
Number 3, next one.
8.
All right, one more.
And let's go with number 1.
Number one. All right. So the first one was 3. What advice would you give someone trying to pursue a career similar to yours?
Start as early as you possibly can. And understand what path you need to take. Unfortunately, here in the UK, I don't know what it's like in Canada. The path to my career isn't laid out via university. So I would, advise anyone, speak to people like myself to see if we can put you in touch with companies who will take you on as either an intern or at a trainee role for you to get started.
All right. So that's your email right there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it's Peter K. Why K? Say your last name for me.
It's Pete K. So my actual last name is Komolafe. So on Facebook, I'm still Pete K. And the reason why I started Pete K was when I joined Facebook many, many years ago, I didn't like the idea that someone could just go and Google me and my profile would come up. And I couldn't just have the letter K. So I had to put on some additional letters. So I said Pete, because most people call me Pete.
Yeah.
K, so K-A-Y. So that's my email address as a result of that little story there with me joining Facebook.
And then say your last name for me one more time.
Komolafe.
Okay. So what is it? King. What does it mean? You have land back home, diamond mines. Like what mean?
Listen, I wish I could have I had a kingdom back in Africa that I could go back to that was just churning out cash, but unfortunately not.
All right. Number 8. It says here, where can listeners find your show? Because obviously, Mike's setup is key. You have everything ready. We talked off air. You do have your own show. So it's funny you picked that one. So where can listeners find you?
Yeah, so my podcast is called The Conversation of Money Podcast. It's available on Google, Spotify, Apple, Stitcher. Really lucky for it to be charting in certain categories on Apple right now, but that's where you find me, The Conversation of Money Podcast. I'm also on YouTube as well as The Conversation of Money. That's all one word, Conversation of Money.
All right. And the last one, number 1, it says, what's one thing you wish you would have known before you began? Oh, what's the one thing you wish you have known before you began? In hindsight, I wish that I knew a lot more about investing in the stock market, simple money management, because that would have helped me make better choices. Much better choices, actually. I look back at some of my choices and it's embarrassing. Let's put it that way. So you saw this new brand of shoelaces and you thought that was it? Nike was going to buy the shoelace. You thought, put your money into shoelaces.
Dude, like I can't remember the last time I bought a pair of Nikes, but when I was in Canary Wharf, I went out and spent £1,000 on a pair of trainers. Just like that. Didn't even think about it. And I was like, well, these are going to look so cool. People are going to be like, these are expensive trainers. Yeah. I think about it now and it's just embarrassing. It really, really is.
Please tell me you still have those runners.
Yeah, no, I've got them in the box upstairs. Like I've worn them like 5 or 7 times. Like literally, I've had them for maybe like 4 years, and I've worn them 5 to 7 times. They're still in the box upstairs. They're very uncomfortable as well.
Oh, okay. I don't know if you have. I was going to ask you to go get those shoes, man. I have to see those shoes.
They're high top Giuseppe's suede.
Okay. Listen,
they look very nice, but yeah, they're very uncomfortable.
I'm going to bring you back on the show so we can see those shoes. Okay.
Yeah, man, definitely.
All right, my friend. Before we let you go, any shout outs? Anybody you want to shout out to?
No, I mean, look, I guess for me, if you're listening to this and watching this, it's all about my mission in life is the whole financial education side of things. So, definitely find my podcast, find me on YouTube. I share a lot of really, really good information there. And if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out, ask questions and so on and so forth. But yeah, just, if when it comes to money, if you're struggling with money or you're concerned about what you should do next with money in terms of investing in the market, it's a big topic right now, then you've got a trusted source that you can contact.
All right, my friend.
Today's podcast is brought to you.
I thank you so much for, coming on, doing what you do best. And if you ever need somebody.
Call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We are
I'm here for you, my brother.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on as well.
No, you've been a great guest. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, man.
Bye-bye. Listen, this is why I do the show. You know, I would have never met this gentleman, fine gentleman. Make sure you check out his podcast. And this is why I do it. You know, we got to learn to open up, listen up, you know, listen to his story. I didn't even know half of his story until he came on and told it to me. But, you know what I mean? We have to see somebody first, don't judge, and look at the great things that he's doing now. So like I always say, you didn't have to watch, but you did. And I thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Has come to an end, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time.
Please be advised that this podcast is meant for educational and informational purposes only and is in no way a replacement for legal or medical advice. The opinions contained within are solely those of the interviewers and interviewees and should be received as so. Those seeking help or advice are encouraged to obtain professional legal and medical services.